Hi and welcome to today's Pick a Card. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. We are getting messages from Spirit. I've already shuffled cards and pulled some oracle cards as well as one tarot card each. We're going to keep these messages short and sweet. That's the plan, at least. But before I get into the cards for each pile, I'm going to meditate off camera, and I'm going to hopefully receive some channeled messages that I can then share with you, and then we will use the cards that I've already picked to hopefully confirm the message that we received, possibly contrast it. I don't know. I have not looked at the cards. I was very careful with shuffling to make sure that I did not see what was on the cards. I'm really trying to push the boundaries of how we can communicate and work together here. So I'm asking for some trust from you, and I'm having a really good feeling for this. I did some deep meditating right now, and I'm ready to get into this. So go ahead and choose your pile. I'm going to give you a quick close-up of the crystals that I have chosen. This is pile number 1. I should say group number 2. Group number 3. Focus. And group number 4. This is a beautiful flat pebble. So these are the groups. Timestamps are in the description below. And like I said, we are getting some messages from Spirit, so whatever is important for you to hear right now. So I will meet you at your reading whenever you are ready. Hi, Group 1. This is your reading if you chose this crystal right here. So I spent some time meditating, and here's what I saw. First off, I got this sensation of a very cold, crisp pool. Nobody in the pool, but like almost the sensation of walking up to an empty pool on a like crisp, cool morning. And then I saw, I got this image of swimming in the pool, and like this sensation of gliding, like this very like effortless gliding through the pool, but also the kind of swimming where, you know, sometimes you're up above the water, sometimes you're below the water. So I guess that would be, I don't know what it's called, like just swimming on, not back swimming. It would be swimming forward where, you know, you keep coming up and down, but very much gliding through the water. And then I saw laurels, like the plant. I saw laurels, which is something that you get when you know, receiving your laurels, when you're celebrated. And so then that kind of went hand in hand with, I saw a bunch of people applauding, and I did see kind of like a gold medal. And then I saw a very bright light. So I've got the sensation of you possibly moving through a phase of your life where you're going back and forth between two worlds. And one of them you're very comfortable in, and the other one is pushing the boundaries a little bit. One, you move effortlessly, and the other, it takes some more effort, but it's going to pay off. And I do get this sense that you are definitely going to gain some kind of attention or recognition. Very, very interesting movements in these visions. There was a sense of solitude, and then at the end there was a sense of, people really paying attention, but there's still solitude in that. Like this imagery of going to the pool early in the morning and there was nobody else there. The work that you've put in is going unnoticed, but it will show itself by how effortlessly you perform. And then when you receive that recognition, when we think of somebody standing in the spotlight, a lot of times having a spotlight on us when we're standing on the stage will make it difficult to see the other people. So there is still a disconnect between you and other people, but you will be recognized for your efforts. Trying to think if there's anything else. No, I think that was pretty much the message. So let's take a look at your oracle cards now. Interesting, we have offering. So with offering, I get this sense of that ritual of going to the pool early in the mornings when nobody else is there. That is kind of like the work that you're putting in, reflective of whatever offerings you're putting in will be there. Somebody's paying attention is what I'm trying to say. They will be rewarded at some point in time, especially if you look at this card offering. We have this this dragon statue. Somebody is paying attention. And even though you feel like you're doing some kind of work, some kind of offering in private, I do think that there will be a reward for it. There will be a acknowledgement of past efforts. And I think that there is also this sense of the routine, the ritual, the efforts that you're putting in are almost more important to you than the acknowledgement. It's more so that that was interesting. I have this little frequency thing and it just kind of moved on its own. But what I was going to say is that the routine, the possibly like the endorphins or just the recognition of self and the pride that you get from putting in the work, I think is more important to you than the recognition, like the external. You're not doing this for external validation. You're doing this because you are committed to a process. Let's take a look at your next oracle card. Weaving flowers. Let me show you this card up close. Weaving flowers is taking me back to the laurels. And look at, we have 30 and we have 33. I think weaving flowers is very much about, this is bringing me back to daisy chains, connecting daisies, and how this is all taking me back to putting in effort, how weaving a flower with another flower is like connecting these blossoms of effort. But that is definitely confirming to me that you see the value of practice or routine. You cherish, there's something that you get out of that, and like the external validation is kind of like a byproduct. It really just kind of comes naturally because of the dedication that you put in. Okay, I said I was going to keep these messages kind of short, so let me get to your tarot card. And we have the Justice card. I really like this because this really speaks to me about the recognition that you will receive is something that you deserve. And it might be difficult for you to accept because, like I said, there was this disconnect still. Like there's this something that you've been doing in solitude, and you're getting to a point where it's ready to be shared with others, but you're still feeling emotionally distant. It's being well received, but you're like, okay, but that's not why I did it. That's not why I created this. That's not why I'm doing this. That's not why I made this. But I think Spirit's message to you is that you need to accept their offering as much as they're accepting your offering. Wow, that's beautiful. The effort, the work, the training, the practice that you've put in was an offering to yourself, yes, but it was also an offering to something greater. And so they're asking you, in order to receive balance, and that's why this weaving flowers has come out, because it's like this, when you think of a daisy chain, by the time it's done, it should be like a crown, right? So this effort that you've put in, part of that journey is accepting the acknowledgement that you're receiving for this, and it's accepting the praise and accepting the laurels. It really is about accepting that gold medal. And not feeling like you're kind of like diminishing the devotion or anything like that just because you're accepting a prize of some sort, a reward. You're a very dedicated person, very kind of serious, very you're very driven you're very internally driven and very driven by your own very driven by your own morals and beliefs, and there's an ask here for you to accept as much as you're giving. Very interesting energy. Okay, I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to make these too long, but I hope that this was an interesting message for you. This is what Spirit decided you needed to hear. Let me know if it resonated, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading if you chose this little guy. So I just spent some time meditating on your message, and here's what I saw. I saw a lemon. I saw some feathers attached to a wing. I saw a bee. Sorry, sometimes I see so much it's hard to keep track. After that, I saw some like spare ribs, but they were like barbecue ribs, but they were eaten, so it was just the bones. And then I saw something else. What did I see after the bones? Okay, maybe I'll remember it, but let's start unpacking. With the lemons, I got this sense of something new, something fresh. The feathers gave me a sense of expansion. So it felt like you're expanding in a new direction, and you're very busy, because we saw the bee, very busy on feeling energized and working towards something, collecting. You might be in a state of collecting information, collecting something, working towards something. And I do, from those bones, it felt like leftovers from a barbecue, first of all. But it felt like something essential. It's like having digested something down to the bone, so that only the bones of it are left. So, and especially because I was talking about expansion, collecting information, like getting to the bones of something, getting to kind of stripping something of the distractions around it. Because when I'm thinking about the meat and like the barbecue sauce, like there's a lot that really kind of disguises the fact that it's just dead flesh, right? Not a vegetarian or anything, but if we put it in simplest terms, it is dead flesh. And once we remove that, the bones remain. They're literally the remains. So it does feel like there's some kind of situation where you're really removing a lot of unnecessary build-up, unnecessary distraction, and really getting to the structural part of it. I know this sounds like I'm reaching a little bit, but this is how my messages work. Yeah, let's take a look at your cards, because I don't want to make these messages too long. So we're going to take a look at your first oracle card. We have Seasons. So Seasons obviously speaks to time passing, but it also speaks of there is a time for everything. There is a time to collect. There is a time to sow, and there is a time to reap. And I do think, considering that we saw the bees, well, it was one bee, that you are in a time of, like I said, collecting. You are in a time of expanding your understanding of something. And you will be able to build upon that new understanding moving forward. Let's get your other oracle card. I swear to you, I did not see these cards. We have Queen Bee. How amazing is that? Okay, this is why I'm doing this, because I'm really trying to trust my channeled messages more. And so this is a beautiful confirmation. And look at also the fact that I saw a lemon and the bees, like this yellow that is like being that's being really highlighted here. So yeah, Queen Bee, obviously, like there, if we think about the queen is able to delegate, and she has worker bees that create for her, and she has bees that go out and collect for her. And the queen is really just in charge, right? There's something here about structure and the time of your life that you are in, and the structural understanding that you have that is going to be allowing you to step into a season of you really embracing your power. With the yellow, it's giving solar plexus energy. The other image that I got with this crystal in general is it gives me like this vibe of like the ocean, because down here we have like kind of brownish color, and then here we have these really nice green blue tones. And this is really speaking to me right now about the tides, the tide that comes and goes. And so there may have been a shift in tide for you. Let's take a look at your tarot card. We have the Knight of Swords. This is beautiful because this really underlines the fact that you are in a phase of collecting. So then when the tide shifts, you are able to move with confidence towards something that you now have a better understanding of, a structural understanding. Like there's something where you've really gotten to the bones of something, right? And you really are very diligently collecting information, resources, something like that, so that when your season comes, you're able to step into your power and make a move. And this message, what Spirit wants you to know is that they recognize that, and to recognize that, because you might be feeling uneasy, you might be feeling like you're not doing enough. You might be feeling like a little bit restless. And Spirit is really wanting me to confirm for you that there is a time when you will jump into action. That time will come. But right now is the time to collect, to sit and cultivate. There's something you're cultivating. And you will know when the time is right to move. Because you will have a clear understanding. You will see the bones, right? You will have a clear understanding of what you're dealing with. Also, with this imagery of the bones, I'm getting that sometimes something needs to decompose down to the bones so that you can understand how to deal with it when it's not decomposed. That was not well worded. The point that I'm trying to make is that way back in the day, before people had a very good understanding of anatomy, what they did is they would examine corpses. I know this sounds very morbid, but this is I'm sorry, but that is the way that we gained a better understanding of human anatomy. And so whatever, there's some kind of, whether it's business related or whether it's about relationships and how you interact with people, there's something that had to be really dissected and really decomposed down to the bone so that you can appreciate in your next season, in your next cycle, how you operate. There's definitely something that you've completely like deconstructed so that you have a better understanding of it moving forward when you recognize it while it is constructed, when you'll recognize a pattern of some sort. Especially with seasons, yeah, there's a pattern recognition. Okay, I want to keep these messages short, so I'm going to leave it there. I do hope that it was interesting, at least. And if it resonated, please let me know, because I'm fascinated. And I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 3. This is your reading if you chose this crystal. And so I just spent some time meditating, and this is what I saw. The first thing I saw was a carrot, and it was a carrot that was still in the ground. And so it made me think about how part of the carrot is underground and part of the carrot is above ground. And when you look at the carrot, the part of the carrot that's above ground, if you never knew what a carrot looked like, you wouldn't guess that that would be coming out of the ground. Something bright orange, right? That's just kind of thought process that I had around seeing that. After the carrot, I saw a hard hat, like a yellow construction worker hard hat. And then I saw a fire alarm, and it was going off. And I saw a sprinkler system shooting out water, and there was a white bucket that was catching the water. So all of that sounds a little bit random, right? But let's go through it. So we've already talked about the carrot being surprisingly orange. There's something that has grown over time, something that has possibly been something that you've been sort of aware of, but not fully. And I do think that the hard hat is kind of a message of spirit, from spirit saying, watch out. Protect your noggin. Not in the most literal sense, but like watch out. It feels kind of like construction work ahead, right? The fact that the alarm was going off and the water was coming out of the sprinklers speaks to me about possibly a very emotionally triggering situation coming up that's going to cause a lot of things to bubble up, to come to the surface. And the fact that there was this bucket that was collecting the water, and I was kind of seeing that it was already full and there was like a reflection on it. There is an ask to reflect on what's coming up. There's an ask to face those emotions and not just clean up the mess and deal with it, but actually take a look at what is coming up and why. Because like I said, there's something that I think has been growing in a sense that you weren't quite aware of, at least not fully. And I think it might be something you thought was one way, and then it comes out and it's very a bright orange. Might have to do with your not your solar plexus, with your sacral chakra. So it might have to do with some kind of triggering wounding when it comes to your sacral chakra, and when it comes to self-love, control, and also sexual desire, some kind of inflammation around those topics. And yeah, the hard hat definitely felt just kind of like a heads up. Like watch out, there's going to be a triggering, some kind of, if you think of the times that we pull a fire alarm, it's because there is a fire, right? Or because somebody pulled it as a prank. But even then, the impact is still the same. It's still just as loud, and if there's a sprinkler system attached, you still deal with the same, whether there is an actual fire or not. Meaning, if somebody says something to you and it triggers you, whether that was intended or not, the impact is the same. So if there is something that triggers this alarm, you have to deal with the impact of it. If there's also a fire going on at the same time, then, the attention is kind of like all on that fire. If there is no fire, then people try to figure out, well, why did this happen? Who did this, right? Spirit is asking you to pay attention, though, to the impact. The impact will be the same, which is it's going to trigger the sprinkler system to go off, the sprinkler system being water, and asking you to show some restraint in how you deal with the emotional aftermath. Okay, I don't want these messages to get too long, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at your first oracle card, and we have fruit. So immediately I'm noticing that there's two hands here, and so fruit to me is speaking of something that's grown over time, right? It's very similar to the carrot, and fruit in this sense feels like the fruit of a connection, the fruit of a relationship, the outcomes of interaction. I am drawn to the fact that this pear is very yellow, kind of like the hard hat. Before the hard hat was a hard hat, before I figured out what it was, I kept thinking that it was kind of like a helmet. Sorry, that's where I ended up, but I was thinking that it was kind of like a melon or a banana, but neither one kind of fit, and now I'm recognizing that I probably saw something very similar to this, but it turned into a hard hat. But in this sense, I think fruit is very much about, think about what you can gain from this situation, which again is the bucket collecting the water. And then we have the gift, yeah, and the fact that we have like this very red, this is exactly the red of the fire alarm, because it was like this very classic like red box, and it was just like going off. Fruit and gift, 20 and 23. I'm strongly feeling that there is this blessing in disguise. Like there's something that's gonna feel triggering, but the fact that you'll be able to collect that water and really take a look at it, it's because after I saw the water, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, do we filter the water? Like, what do we do? Like, but that's kind of where the meditation ended. Like, I didn't see anything after that. But I am getting the sense that it's not going to feel like a gift. It's not going to feel like a fruitful situation at first. And even if you take a look, the fact that she's like out in the cold, it's snowing around her, it's not going to feel like you're being gifted something. But in regards to the crystal that we have here as well, it does feel like it might be a gift of clarity. Let's take a look at your tarot card. See, these are like seemingly pretty positive, and then we have this 9 of Swords. It is something that's going to be very triggering. This is going to be very triggering, and yet there is a blessing in this because it's going to give you clarity about something. And I think it's something that like I said, with the carrot, it's been growing, it's been there for a while, and it's like pulling out the carrot and seeing actually how long it is. But now that you have awareness around it, it's like, okay, now you know what you have, right? It's like you've been noticing the carrot, the top of it, you've been seeing it grow, and you're like, it looks like a weed, I'll deal with it later. Oh, okay. Seeing something grow in your garden and thinking like, there's a weed growing back there. I think I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it later. And then when you finally deal with it, you pull it out and it's a carrot. It's like, oh, it's not just a weed. Like, this is actually something that you can eat. This is actually something that you can benefit from, right? And it's not going to feel like that. It is going to feel triggering. It is going to feel like it's going to bring up a lot of possibly memories, a lot like that sprinkler system, the water was getting everywhere, impossible to contain. So really just let it wash over you, collect what you can, and deal with what you've collected. You're not going to be able to collect it all. Deal with whatever you've collected, and really try and see how you can benefit from this triggering moment, how you can go forward with more of an understanding of yourself. I think that's what the gift is, and your understanding of yourself and how you are in relation to others, things that trigger you. Like, it's just going to give you some kind of awareness. It's almost like finding out where there's a mine that you weren't aware of, like that, just a sore spot that you weren't aware of, and bringing awareness to that will help you maneuver through relationships differently. And that's why I think it's a gift, because you're gonna realize where you've avoided certain things very much subconsciously, and now you bring awareness to it, and that's going to help you address it in a more healthy way, I think. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I don't want these messages to be too long. I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if it resonated, because I'm very interested in how these readings are turning out. And other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime. And until then, take care. Hi Group 4, this is your reading if you chose this cute little pebble. So I spent some time meditating on your energy, and this is what I saw. Very first thing immediately I saw was a bridge, kind of like a stone bridge, and then I saw this perspective of crossing that bridge, and I was immediately met with a hurdle, with like I don't know what it's called, but that's the only way I would know how to describe it, a hurdle. Something that was stopping me from proceeding, right? And so then I was like, okay, well then why did I cross the bridge? And I noticed that underneath the bridge, it wasn't water, it was just mud. It was very muddy, so the water was a little bit dried up. And then the next thing I saw was I'm trying to get the right word for it. Like a container. It's not a container. What's it called? I can't think of the word. A pitcher, a glass pitcher. I saw a glass pitcher full with water, and then I saw somebody drop like a red liquid in it, and just one drop of that liquid dispersed everywhere, and the water wasn't clear anymore, but it was kind of like reddish. And just that one drop kind of tainted the water. And I was thinking of how blood is thicker than water. The mud situation did make me feel like something being dragged out. Ultimately, I did ask, like, what is this about? And I got the answer that it was about communication, I saw kind of like a sword. It feels like there's some kind of, possibly some kind of conflict, some kind of situation where you are trying to make amends, and as soon as you cross that bridge, it's like, well, there's nothing for me here. And so things are being dragged out because they got muddied. It's like something, like one bad interaction or conversation or argument really kind of tainted a whole relationship. It's kind of the sense that I got. Yeah, there's something that it's like you can't get it out of the water anymore, and the water under the bridge has ran dry. So there's some kind of emotions that are being held back somewhere. Somebody is being very closed off. A very difficult situation, it feels like. Okay, so I don't want these messages to get too long, so I'm going to take a look at your first oracle card. And we have feels so right. And that kind of feels so wrong, right? But this definitely is about communication and the colors that I'm seeing here. And I think this speaks to expressing how you feel. And if somebody doesn't allow that kind of dialogue, then it doesn't feel right. The fact that you tried to cross that bridge and immediately met with a hurdle, it's almost like this, the sense that the bridge was there was giving this false sense of willingness, like this false sense of willingness to, I don't know, I get the sense of two parties being like, you know what, we don't see eye to eye on this, and both parties acting like, yeah, we're mature, we can address this in a mature way. And in reality, one of them is just putting up this front that they're mature, but in reality, they're not actually willing to get over it, you know? Let's take a look at your other oracle card. Can you hear me? Oh my God, this is absolutely about communication. Wanting to make something right, feels so right. Wanting to make something right in communication with someone and not feeling like they're hearing you, not feeling like you're being understood, because how can they hear you if they're not meeting you where you decided you'd meet each other, right? There's this bridge, and it's like, okay, we will keep this bridge. I'm on this side of my argument, you're on that side of the argument, but we will keep this bridge. And yet when you come to the bridge, they've created a boundary, which everyone's allowed to create boundaries as they see fit, right? But as you approach their side, there's this boundary, so there's no way for you to really come together anymore, it feels like. And especially with that picture, that really, that one drop, that one thing really kind of tainted the whole water. And look at how sad she is. Very upset that, you know, there's communication that you want to have. There's communication that you are willing, like you are willing to go through the mud. It's not even water, it's mud, and it's messy, and you're willing to get through the messiness in order to have meaningful communication, but you have to be met halfway, right? Let's take a look at your tarot card. Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands, it's interesting because this feels kind of like the environment that I was seeing. I was definitely seeing trees and greenery. But the Ace of Wands, that's giving me hopeful energy, because it is, and also this pebble actually is giving me hopeful energy, because it really is about like This is the kind of like really nice pebble that would skip well over water. Making something happen that doesn't seem like it's realistic, you know? And the white of it, like it just seems like a very peaceful like energy. And having this Ace of Wands feels like a motivation to try again, a motivation to like try a different approach. Now I will say don't overextend yourself if it's not worth it, if you're not being met halfway. But also this could indicate an opportunity coming up where somebody that had that boundary up will actually find it within themselves to kind of lower their boundary. And maybe then, you know, because both these cards, Feel So Right is also a hopeful card. So maybe then you'll be able to have that communication. I do feel right now that's not the case, but maybe moving forward, I think there is some hope in restoring some of the peace, but you have to be aware, and you're going to have to acknowledge that that water got tainted, right? That the mud isn't easy to clean up. There's gonna be a need for honest communication and honest like acknowledgement and accountability, especially if one of you was very much overextending and very much trying to fix something that they can't fix on their own. This is absolutely, definitely about communication and hopefully finding a new angle, a new baseline to communicate effectively and bring back some of that peace. And while you might not be able to completely clean up that pitcher of water, it's about both of you looking at it and seeing, hey, this you recognize this water is now pink, right? Because it was a drop of red. It's like we have to acknowledge like this is what the water looks like now, right? You see that, I see that. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it there. There's some hope. I do find that this message became more hopeful. But I do want to acknowledge that your feelings are valid, right? There's a lot of things that I think you haven't gotten the chance to say. I think you will get the chance to say them eventually. And it will feel very good to let them out. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that this was interesting at the least. If it resonates, let me know. Really intrigued to see how these messages turn out for you guys. Other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime, and until then, take care.